I love a great story. For 25 years on the Oprah Show, I had the privilege of
violated me. We also see a new incarnation for women today.
The emphasis on women's appearance affects more than just women on screen. It's affecting women's ability to participate in the political process. Ironically,
homophobic cleaver. There's a whole lot going on there that actually puts girls in a really Okay, great. Like that. Okay. Right. Is that one on over there? That one? All right. Testing. Can you hear this? Testing? No? I have two volunteers. Can I have two volunteers to be my mic people? All right. There's one. Can another person be a mic person? You just have to go to that person. Mic it up. All right. Thank you.
Who's the other person?
Okay.
Twinsy.
What's not working? Does anyone know why this one's not working? Does anyone, any tech people? Tech. It's not on? Oh. Push a button? I don't know either. Is it, did I press something? I don't know. I think I'm trying to. Let's see. Nope. Why did I do that? Okay. What the? Okay. What does this do?
Just go try to turn up.
Okay. Why is it not working? Okay. What? None of them working now? Hi. I don't know. None of them working. I don't know. I don't know why. Do you want to call the people? Yes, I guess I will call them. I changed the battery, it works fine, but the screens don't work. They don't project at all. So, why? Thank you so much. If someone can come, I'll call again. Thank you. What is this born what? Born what? What are we born what? Are we born? What number are we born? Oh, 118. Okay. Oh, one is working. Okay. One is working.
Just that one.
Oh, two is working. Just that one? Well, whatever. Good enough, I guess.
I think that's just the.
Maybe that's broken?
Should I try to push the power button?
I don't know. It was working earlier. The guy earlier was
That
working.
one wasn't on. That one.
Was? Okay. Okay. Oh well. Okay, guys. Let's do current events. Let's talk about current events. I'll hand it off to Sylvia, and then we'll go over our readings. Current events. Raise your hand if you're a first-generation college student. First generation. Okay, so like the mass majority of you guys, right? Okay, who's a second generation? Second generation. How about third? Third, fourth? Fourth. Okay. All right. So I actually found another current event. I was wondering your opinion on. It seems like there's some students that are suing their own law school. What did you guys think of this? Some of them I've noticed are California schools. And I actually was talking to Mr. Aaron about this. And what do you guys think about this? Because it's kind of close to my heart. College debt. What do you guys think? There's some people that are suing their own law school. What do you guys think about that? So look at the job, Mr. Chris. Is it Mr. Chris? Right. Right. Yeah.
My opinion is just the error of the student.
Error of the student. Okay.
I mean, I know a lot of people that are like trying to go to teaching right now, and if that's the way it's going to go, then at some point there's going to be transits. So.
Good point. Good point. I'm going to give it to Sylvia. Current events. You can do whatever you want.
They have a mic.
Okay. Also in Nigeria, they kidnapped 200 Nigerian girls, right? And they said that we will sell them. So whatever you want to do, Sylvia.
This is about the Nigerian girls. They had said something on the news that some of the mothers of them were saying that a few of them had been abducted for over 2 years now. And so, like, now, you know, it's a big deal now, which is a great thing because it's getting exposure and stuff like that, you know. But, yeah, some of the moms are like, no, some of our daughters have been gone for 2 years. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but they were just saying this isn't something that just happened. It's been happening.
Anyone else?
There was a current event on, is this working? Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you.
There was a current event on, I think it was Monday or Sunday. It was Arkansas. If I'm not mistaken, it's Arkansas. And they just started doing same-sex marriages, but the people like who have to complete the same-sex marriages like in the court system, they all like didn't show up for work. So it was just like, so not a lot of people could like actually get married. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Thank you. That's a good current event.
Hello? Okay. This might be shocking to all of you, but Selena Gomez is still currently in and out of rehab. She has been battling for some time her fight with Justin Bieber and that whole situation. So, you know, I can understand, like, personally, I don't want to take the mic for like 15 minutes. I could go on for like 15 minutes about this topic. But like, love is great, you know, but like Selena Gomez, like, she just doesn't know how to handle love, you know? So I'll keep talking until someone cuts me off.
No, we have someone. We have someone.
A high school in San Bernardino made one of the homework assignments in I think it was either the middle school or the high school, was the question about the Holocaust. And the students had to make an argument about whether the Holocaust happened or if it was a propaganda made by somebody to depict the Germans being evil, and therefore arguing that the Holocaust did not happen. Of course, the students did the assignment, but when they got pressed for it, the school apologized. But it just shows you like where our state, like, and it wasn't just a one teacher who just made this assignment. It was a group of teachers who came together because it's just a part of the I guess it's either the state or the throughout the United States, but they're doing like some kind of new homework assignments where they just try to open creativity on the people's minds, but I think they just went too far with this one.
Good point. Thank you.
I have it too, but my first one is a mom recently posted a video of her daughter crying on, and it went viral, and the daughter was crying because she had been bullied in school. I think this girl's like 7 or 8. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but I guess like the superintendent was trying to say that they followed the proper procedures and all this stuff, but the news was talking about how if they were doing that, then in the video, the daughter says, the mom asked her, how many times did you go to the principal? And she's like, 5. And then she's crying like hysterically. And then they're like, and what did the principal do? And the daughter's like, nothing. And so they were showing how, like, even though the superintendent was over here saying, well, we followed all the procedures, maybe there was something in our system that's flawed and we should try something else. But in reality, they weren't doing anything to help the daughter that was being bullied. So anyways, it went viral, and the school is now like being looked at, like, why aren't you guys helping with bullies and stuff like that? And then my second thing is the Beyonce and Jay-Z video. All those memes are so funny, by the way. But Solange, Beyonce's sister, was caught beating up, or kind of, like hitting Jay-Z and kicking him in an elevator. And then Beyonce's kind of like not really doing much, but you could kind of see she's like shaking her head. And like the thing about Beyonce, she's like always professional. It just seems like she's always keeping her composure no matter what. So Solange and Jay-Z were caught today shopping in a jewelry store. But anyways, they were trying to find out what happened in the elevator to cause them to fight. But anyways.
Thank you.
We have one more.
One more current event. Yeah, one more current event.
Relating back to that bullying thing, I remember reading something, I think it was like a week ago, so it isn't super current, but still current enough. And I think it was in Maine that they're actually in the process of making cyberbullying illegal. So if a kid is caught online, or if, like, say he's actually caught bullying someone either through cyberbullying or actual bullying, the parents can be fined up anywhere between $1,000 to like $2,000, and then the bully and the parents have to go to counseling.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Great.
Do we have?
And last one at least.
I just have a question. Can you guys hear me? Does anyone have a 5 charger? My phone's dead and I have an emergency. Anyone? Or no? Oh, thank the Lord. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, guys. Excellent. Let's do Awkward Black Girl. Let's go into the lecture. Okay. All right. Is this episode correct? Is this the correct one?
Big shitty brain fart.
Is this correct? Number 11 or 12? This is 11.
10.2.
Is it 12?
No, it's 10.2. Last week we watched 10.1.
There's a 10.2? 10
10.1%.
to that one? Like that? Like that? This one?
Oh my God, hello, sweetie.
Jay, I know you're in here.
I wasn't the best at hide and seek.
You can't hide forever, Kunta.
Kunta, while Nina's playing house nigga in charge, I'll plan my escape. Bitches be power tripping. The clock is the saving grace of all horrible work days.
Going somewhere?
It's almost 7.
But it's not 7, is it? You see these files? They need to be filed. Take as long as you need to do it.
I'll file them. I need the overtime.
I guess you don't need me then.
There's always tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. And the day after that.
I've officially survived Nina's tricks. Now to get my treats from White J. Damn. If White J is supposed to be fine for Halloween, mission accomplished.
How's it going?
I don't get it.
My fellow Americans.
Who is that, Bill Clinton?
Bill, really? Bill Clinton? Barack Obama.
How could I possibly not get that?
I literally practiced that accent all day today.
You need to work harder.
Okay, cool. Well, your costume is garbage? Come on, give me some credit. I at least dress as a person.
I'm a person.
And a famous person at that.
I am a famous person. I'm Peppa from Salt and Pepper. Do, 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 do.
How would I have known that?
CC Salt. Well, if she was here, you would get it.
Right, okay. If. Alright, you ready to go, Pep Pep?
Trick or
Trick or treat.
Ah, what's up, Queen Latifah? And Leonardo DiCaprio?
Whoopi Goldberg.
And Ted Danson.
Am I Whoopi?
I'm not Ted Danson.
Oh, I get it. Coming to America.
George Washington?
Erykah Badu. Girl, you better call Tyrone.
No. Maya Angelou.
Aaron Lincoln.
Yes, yeah.
Up in the moment, gotta take it all in. Right now it's all about you. If I can make you smile, smile, smile. Caught up in the moment, gotta take it all in. Right now it's all about you. If I can make you smile, while the world keeps spinning.
I'll give you most of them. I do want one. You like it?
I love surfing.
You love all of it.
I do. I love everything except the lemon heads. With Jay, I feel comfortable in my own skin. He's like my male Cece. No lesbo. Oh shit! I completely forgot. Just one second, I'm sorry.
Where are you? Party's already started. Please tell me you're on your way. You're still in White J?
I'm sorry, we were having so much fun, I kind of lost track of time.
But you're still coming, right? Right?
Are you gonna be mad if I stay?
No, I won't be mad.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
You're not gonna be mad?
Jay, I'm fine. Have fun with White Jay.
She's not coming, is she?
TC's totally mad. But she'll understand, right?
Everything good?
Everything's great.
Oh my god, Jay! Is that you?
Kristen. How you doing? What are you doing? I thought you were overseas.
I just moved here. I've been meaning to call you. I'm getting my PhD at UCLA.
That's really cool. And not at all surprising.
Thanks.
What's with her costume? Is she treating and tricking?
Barack Obama? That's so clever.
You know, you're the first person to get it.
No.
Yeah, I was really disappointed.
Oh, I'm so hot. I'm such a good guesser.
You always have the best costumes.
Oh, I'm so rude. I'm sorry. This is Kristen.
Hi, I'm Jay.
Nice to meet you.
What's happening? Does he like her? Who is this pretty bitch? And why do I want to suffocate her with my trash bag? I guess White Jay has his own green tea latte.
Wish you could watch this all day. All right, guys. Great. All right. Feminism, The Question of Class by Alexandra Kollontai. I don't know, bad Russian. All right, can someone read it?
Feminism, The Question of Class by Alexandra Kollontai, 1872 to 1952, foremost feminist of Bolshevik Party in Russia, worked to implement feminist worker ideas in the Communist Party. 2, critiques bourgeoisie feminism.
Excellent.
Bourgeoisie feminism.
All right, so she's actually a very famous feminist, not Northern American. She's actually Russian. She's a socialist, and she has a particular critique on feminism, and her critique is actually through the lens of class. So please write that down. Class is her critique, right? And that's why she's quite famous, and one of the first people actually to talk about gender in terms of class. Now, what's interesting about the communist or socialist parties in Russia and China is that they actually had a particular discussion about class, and in a way, actually, the women in the Communist Party as well as the socialist parties had very high positions, actually. So it's very interesting if you look into the history of China, for instance. Some people go there and say the women are oppressed, but if you actually look at the placement of some of their cadres is actually quite high, as well as in Russia. So something to think about. All right, guys, in your notes, write down bourgeoisie feminism. She critiques bourgeoisie feminism. Okay, so I have a question: is what is bourgeoisie feminism, or what is bourgeoisie? Go ahead. Okay. I see a hand right there.
Is it some middle class workers?
Yes, so everyone write it down. It's a middle class. There's a Marxist definition, but one definition is middle class. If Karl Marx would be here, he would say it's propertied people who own property. Okay, so there's several definitions. What gauche or not gauche definitions of bourgeoisie. Okay. All right, let's take a sheet of paper out, okay? Let's split it in half, okay? On one side, write down 10 ways your race makes women different from other women, okay? And again, there's many genders, and so you could write your own gender. It doesn't have to be women, transgender, etc., okay? I just put it as a marker for this class, okay? For instance, a hint would be the women's Ku Klux Klan. How does that make them different from other women? On the other side of the paper, tell me 10 reasons why working class women are very different from upper class or middle class or bourgeoisie women. Include yourself, because in terms of Alexandra, you guys all would be bourgeoisie, okay, in a sense. Okay? All right. Let's give that 5 minutes.
a deadline, right, to return them in?
For what?
I'm sorry, for me to return them, the final grade.
Well, Alyssa can't do it in time, so mine are done, like 9 done, but maybe Monday, that would be good.
It should be done tomorrow, so I was wondering if we can meet. This is so, we can talk about it at the end of class.
And if you guys are turning in late papers, just put negative 10% and sign your name, okay? If you guys, some of you haven't turned in papers yet, so just turn in a paper, just turn in a late paper, okay? So mass majority have to turn in papers, but if you haven't turned a paper, put down late, okay, if you've turned it in. All right, guys, do we still need more time? Yes, okay.
I have like a good, I still have like a good 10 more to go, but I'm almost finished. Just need to upload the grades too. What about tomorrow? What's your schedule like tomorrow? What time? I want what? I might come with you. I don't know. I'm gonna try. Because I want to give you the papers by tomorrow too. That's other thing.
Here.
Should have put a note.
All right, also in your, if you want to, please put down the occupations of your parents. Please put the occupations of your parents. Remember John Berger, right? Where our background kind of sort of dictates how we see things, okay? And if you could put the highest education of your parents, that would be great. And after that, if you want, you could switch and look at each other's. Switch. Maybe we can look at 2 or 3 of our fellow classmates. And then after that, we'll collate our answers.
I have to leave right away after class.
Okay, you can leave early if you want. Do you have a date?
No, I need to see my sister.
Oh, you can leave early. You can leave now if you want. They can always volunteer. I don't want you to, kill yourself.
So eager to volunteer too.
Well, you don't want to hear me talk, so.
Because you know what? I'm always diagnosed with lymphoma. Totally.
What?
I'm always diagnosed with lymphoma.
Oh shit! Sorry. Stage.
It's concerning, but it's treatable. We just have to see the oncologist, but she just got the results yesterday.
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, it really sucks, but my baby sister's taking it really bad.
Really?
I wanted to go see her.
You can go now if you want. Yeah. There's no need.
I'm thinking
I got these ladies right here. They're both willing to do it. Why torture yourself? I want you to go. Be free. Because those 2 girls have volunteered to take it. Oh, those 2 girls? Yeah, both of them.
So I will leave. I will. Yeah, I'll call you later tonight or tomorrow morning to see like where I can give you the papers because I'm almost done too. Okay. Because at least work is keeping me distracted.
No worries. Okay, I'll go. All right. After that, let's switch again. After you read someone else's, switch again. All right, let's switch again, and let's collate all our answers together, guys. How is How is, and again, there's so many ways to do it, like gender, race, class, but let's do race. How are different raced women, quote unquote, as an anthropology major, please forgive me, you know there's no such thing as race, so please forgive me for saying that, but how is the race different for different women? How could that affect? And think about the clan women. How is your race different? And so I have 2 volunteers. Thank you so much. They'll be walking around. So raise your hand. And there's a hand right there. Is that Mr. Benjamin? All right.
I think that a way that race affects the way that women are viewed. I just went ahead and just did African American women just because that's what I could relate to the most. I actually did a study on this in one of my gender and sexuality classes, and we were talking about how black women are seen as more aggressive, to have like a more masculine features in that sense. They're assumed within a domestic relationship between like 2 lesbians. If it's like a white woman and a black woman that are getting into a domestic fight, then the officers would assume that it's the black woman that is the violator and not the white woman. So those were just a couple of things that I was able to jot down.
Thank you. Excellent. Guys, other ways that race of women affects? See, Mr. Manouche?
Women that are not white are seen like subordinate to other women just because of how society is structured. Like, I don't want to say that's completely true, because there's a lot of hardworking women that are of colored ethnicity and stuff like that. But just the way society is structured, you know, like if you're a colored individual, you have a harder plight than people that, well, I guess I can't say colored because everyone's colored, but like I guess Aryan individuals are like seen as more superior to non-Aryan individuals, which makes it more difficult for them to progress in society and gain foothold in society.
Okay. And Mr. Manouche, South Asians are Aryan, so race. South Asians are Aryan, so.
Yeah, that's true. There was a Aryan invasion theory. But, you know, like, Dr. Bond, like, to be honest, like, there's, like, so many theories, and I'm, like, lost. I'm trapped. I don't know what to believe and who to trust.
Trust yourself.
Yeah, but I'm not the best individual. I don't make the best choices. But I guess, yeah, that's true. That's honest advice. Like,
Okay.
trust yourself.
There's Mr. Rami next to you and Miss Josie behind you, so ask them. Okay. All right. Anything else for race, guys? And let's go to class next. Any more for race? How is race different?
I don't know if this is like naive of me to ask, but a lot of us speculate. I kind of have a question. So a lot of us speculate about like white women and them feeling maybe superior to minorities, but I don't know if anyone in here is partially white or whatever, fully white, but how do they feel like their position is in society and like, you know, in relation to minorities? I don't know if that's like even an appropriate question to ask, but maybe we're speculating that they feel above or whatever, but maybe they humble themselves to say, no, we're at the same level fighting for the same thing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know like what you're talking about, and I read this thing where white women are seen as equal to black men, and that they're both the oppressor and have been oppressed. Women oppress people of color, and black men oppress women as because they're men and they are above women generally. And so that's like the way it's seen, is that white women have been the oppressed and the oppressor, and so they see both sides of the coin. So like I see what you mean. Like I do see a lot of white women that are just that it's like the whole hiring of minorities. So I mean, women are in that position to oppress the other women of color. But I mean, yeah.
Thank you. But in general, I think no one can speak for a whole group, but thank you. Okay. All right, guys, let's move along to class. Oh, Okay, so finish off. Go ahead.
I just think that was a really good question. It was a really strong point to raise. I think when you ask somebody personally, like if it was a white woman, because I actually have asked a couple of white people that question, and I mean the response is going to be like, "Oh, I feel superior to you, like I see it within the system," but I feel like it's at a structural and an institutional level, and not within the person. So a lot of times they don't even recognize the advantage, or it has to literally be pointed out, or it's like somebody recognizes the advantage for them, or so that's just an idea that you could think about.
Excellent. A structural
Can
advantage.
I make a quick comment too? Just like as someone who obviously I'm white, just like I don't really think of myself as like being advantaged because I'm white, but then people will like point it out and then be like, "Oh, you're white, you have all this privilege, blah blah blah." But it like if somebody's like way smarter than me, way qualified than me, then I feel like they should get whatever it is that I'm applying for if we're applying for the same thing. So like you were saying how the person doesn't really realize that they're privileged until like you think about it, because I was raised with parents who weren't like, they grew up where there was kind of racist stuff. So like when I was dating my black ex-boyfriend, like they're like, "Oh, you can't reproduce with him because people are going to make fun of your babies because they'll be half white and half black." So but that wasn't a thing to me, because like in our generation that's just like common. So it's just like we were raised so differently. So I think that our generation doesn't, like how you were saying the privilege thing, like I know a lot of older white people who do feel that they are superior over like black people, and like I don't care, but that's how they were raised. So I think it's also like generations.
All right, let's move along to class, okay? And I really want to fill it up, guys, class, because I think it affects everyone in here. You guys would all be considered the elite, right, of the globe, right? So 1 to 2% of the planet has a BA, but even in America and even in Riverside, you are the elite of the elite of the elite, okay? So I want you guys to think about yourself, right? Because in this area, Riverside, we don't have a huge college going, you know, in comparing to like, let's say Boston, Massachusetts, they have a very high college going population, but we just don't have that. In fact, we have one of the highest rates of not going to college in this area, San Bernardino and Riverside. So something about you and something the person sitting next to you is elite, right? So tell me how you are different from, let's say 99% of the world, or let's say over 70% of Riverside, San Bernardino. Like, why are you different from people who are not college educated? All right, let's go down the line.
Thank you for all of you for putting up with my useless comments throughout the quarter. But I'm going to stand up for this one because it's motivational.
Okay.
To be honest, like, we all have our own plights. And sorry, Dr. Banh. The question was, sorry.
How is your class different? How's everyone here? Someone would argue all of you are bourgeoisie, right? If Alexandra Kollontai was here, she would say you're all bourgeoisie. So how are you different from a working class person?
True. It's our plights, you know, like everyone is different in their own understanding. Like, see, for example, Rami, can you please stand up?
What?
Thank you. Rami's from Saudi Arabia, and most people don't know that. And like the way Rami was socialized is different from the way I was socialized because I grew up in America. And like cultural norms are different, you know, like for example, I can't really think of an example, but Rami understands life different than the way I understand life, and it's a social prism, you know. Like, it's like I should stop talking because I'm making a fool of myself. But the thing is, like, we all have our own understanding of life, and like, we got to use our resources to the best of our ability, you know. Like, yeah, even though we're the 1%. Well, there's a 1% for the 1%, but like that's statistics, you know. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, math is like unquantifiable. So like, what can you really do? You know, like you just got to put up with what you have and like hope for the best.
Thank you. Okay.
So-
All right. All right, guys. So how are you guys different from other people who don't go to college? Mr. Hunter.
I was one thing you said about like the tools that we use to do what. I'm sorry, I got lost in your argument, dude. I honestly don't understand. I'm sorry for that, but one thing that he mentioned was about the tools, and that's something that most middle class people like don't have. It's kind of like relating to like the American dream, or the illusion of the American dream is that a lot of people, or like especially middle class people, don't have, like, they dream or like they want to work towards something, but they're not exactly given the tools to get there. Like for us elite, we have to work like in school, like be good enough to like get grants and all that stuff. It's not it's given to us, but it's not given to us for free, and it's like it's very it's particular because like not everyone gets this stuff, and most of the time most people aren't given like the necessary means to achieve what they want, and that's, I feel, is one of the I guess advantages and disadvantages of the middle class. So yeah,
Good point. Good point.
Getting onto the idea of tools and how our class, I guess, differs versus like class, or going back to like us being the 1% versus the world. I think it's just the resources available, not only on the small scale in like our community, but in the world, per country to country. In America, we are given the opportunity for free public education. Now, what you may think about that varies. But then sometimes people in other countries are not given that opportunity, or they have to pay a very high cost in order to even go to middle school or elementary school. And that's not even higher education. So how are they expected to go on to higher education if they can't even enter basic, lower levels of education? So that's like one class difference that can be argued.
So country to country is also that's an excellent point. Mr. Christopher, our Chilean exchange student, how are you different as a elite student? Good, pass it back. Being from, you could talk about Chile if you want.
Can you hear me? So sorry, what was the question? Like, how many different from the American
what
people?
percentage of Chileans go to college? Here we have like 30.
It's really low because college in Chile are very expensive, so not all the people can afford it. So actually, in my case, I could want like a lot of scholarships, so that's why I'm going to college, and I also want another scholarship, so that's why I'm here. And it's really hard. It's like pretty only the rich people can go to college, or if you are not rich or you don't have like enough money, you have to want a scholarship, and that's the only way you can make it. So yeah, it's pretty hard in that case. Yeah, one more question. I don't know if you want to know something else about Chile. Oh, actually, well, this is like current event like from Chile. All the students are like making protests like on the streets and stuff like that because they're asking for free public education. Like, you don't have to pay nothing for go to college. So that's why they're asking for now. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I see some hands back there that was like... All right, go ahead.
Is this thing working? All right. What I think would set us apart from class is the economic opportunity that our parents have provided for us. Because, like, in some countries, we see, like, some of the videos we've seen, we have generations and generations of family working just so that the next generation could get a good position in society.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Okay. And was there a hand way back there? I think you're swinging your hand, so can we go back?
Is this on?
Pass that back.
Let's
Go ahead.
go. Hi. Ben has
Benjamin,
the mic again.
yes.
Yeah, sorry. So when it comes to class, I think there's a huge, there's something that like we need to like address. I'm just speaking for America right now. On an international level, it gets much more confusing. But even the middle class in America, there's a large like disparity between like upper middle class and lower middle class. Lower middle class, to me, which is damn near poverty in this current economy, isn't as privileged as what we may consider upper middle class. And honestly, with the current economy that's going on right now, I wouldn't even consider upper middle class bourgeoisie, even though that you can very well make that argument. But when we talk about middle class, I feel like there's so many layers to it that it's not as neat as it used to be. So we can't just say middle class and just expect there to be this common thread of understanding for everybody.
So apparently, Mr. Benjamin, 90% of Americans say they're middle class. Right? People who make $1 million a year and people who make $17,000 a year, they all say they're middle class.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Excellent. Okay.
Stupid middle.
Okay, and you've been waiting so long. Yes.
So the difference that I've noticed from class, I guess, I lived in El Salvador for a year. I went to school out there.
Okay.
So over here, I'm working class. I grew up South Central, LA. But when I go over there, my aunt is upper middle class. So it's a total different lifestyle. Yes. And what I've noticed from the countries, the difference between the countries and their class is that there's a bigger gap between the rich and the poor in third world countries like El Salvador. So people that I knew that were, I related more with the people who were poor out there just because I was not bourgeoisie, I guess, here. So I didn't know how to translate that into another country. So what I noticed is that like the people who were poor out there, like up, like
right.
people out here can. Like I had the opportunity to move up. I'm going to college and I'm gonna graduate too. But over there,
yes,
just the do is find a job gonna pay them like, minimum wage over here, and barely live off that money. I don't know. It was just
that's an excellent point.
Yeah. And can I go back on the race real quick?
Okay, I'll go back to the race. Okay.
I just want to mention how like women do some white privilege because they're the norm when it comes to beauty and what beauty is considered.
Yes, excellent.
So women of color have to like. I'm not saying they're trying to look like white women, but I mean they do like straight hair. They what's it called? I'm sorry. I mean with their makeup, it's lighter skin. Okay. Their eyes, contacts, colored eyes. Facial gestures when you get like cosmetic surgery done, a smaller nose, which is European like facial structures or whatever. So.
Great point. Great point. So beauty standards. Okay. All right, guys. Let's finish up for class. Okay. Thank you for making a big distinction between different countries. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Let's go back to our lecture. Okay. All right. So I think we talked. Alexandra Kollontai actually makes a huge argument that women are not the same, right? She's talking about specifically Russia, but because she's so famous, and then this was written quite a long time ago, people still talk about it today, and it's a huge distinction. Women are not the same, and they have different privileges and oppressions. Okay. All right. For example, write this down. Okay. In terms of class, right? If you're looking at class, you're looking at like the environmental movement, right? Which a lot of times people say is driven by women, right? A lot of women are directors of these environmental movements, right? So one case is if you've ever heard of Madres of East LA. Has anyone heard of that group? Okay. It's a Chicana kind of Mexican-American activist group that's dominated by women. It's called Madres of East LA, Mothers of East LA. And for them, if you look at these two different types of class of women, East LA had a lot of toxic kind of environmental poisons from the garage, the trashes, etc. in the area. Because if you're not from the U.S., in people of color areas, there tends to be a higher proportion of trash compactors, right? But also factories, right, that spew out this like toxic chemicals, right? So these mothers, these Mexican American mothers, were protesting about these kind of chemicals that are being spewed in their area, right? Now you contrast that to kind of bourgeoisie female feminists, right, who are pushing for save the whale, right? Save the wolf. Right? Recycle, right? So do you see the class difference between these two types of women, right? One is in their backyard and one is, it's a different type of movement, okay? Over there, if someone could, go ahead. Well, the Madres of East LA has a distinct. They say that they are they are female dominated, and they have a they have a distinctive mission statement that says that they are mothers, that they are feminists, and that they're wanting equality. That's a great question because they want equality for their entire, not just for women, right, but Mexican Americans who live in East LA, actually. And so people in the literature, people define them as different types of feminist movements, right? No. I think the argument is they have different. How do I, Mr. Michael? Different agendas, right? So the moderators of East LA are quite famous because they fought and they protested to get these toxic. They found that people in East LA were getting cancer, leukemia, etc. And so they were fighting not just for women, but of course their entire community, right? And so you contrast them to a lot of these other environmental groups that are actually dominated by women, but their agenda is not to get toxics out of their neighborhood because they don't have toxics, right? They want to, which is a great thing, save the whale or something, right? But it's just two different types of agenda. Yes, Mr. Benjamin. That's a wonderful question. The definition of feminism is actually quite large, right? So there's actually like 4 ways. We really got into. There's like first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, fifth, whatever. So some people might, it's up to you, okay? But some people might define moderates easily as third wave feminists, right? And so they might define maybe Save the Whale environmental feminists as eco-feminists, maybe second wave or something, right? So that's a great question. It sort of depends on who you ask, right? Because is that person a Chicana, or is she a Latina, or is she a Mexican American woman, right? It depends on who you ask, right? So I'm sure since I've actually had them to my class before, the Module of East LA, they do actually view themselves as, well, feminist also is a white Anglo term. So I think that on their mission statement, they do say that they're pro-women, pro-family, but I think feminist is a Anglo type term that I'm not sure if they would identify with it, right? But again, Moderates East LA, you really can't generalize because they have different members. They have younger members, older members, right? And they have even different identities within the group. For our purpose, we just I can say female-dominated group, I guess. Okay, but some I have met them and they have come to my class as guest speakers. So some actually do identify as feminists, right? So it sort of depends on who you were talking to, right? It's like a political question, right? Because feminist does have an Anglo kind of past, right? So a lot of African American women don't identify as feminists, right? A lot of Asian American women don't identify. So it's but then some do, like Bell Hooks. I am a feminist. So it really depends on who you ask. That's a wonderful question, okay? All right, so something that you all have in common is you have something called cultural capital, okay? So write that down. Cultural capital means that you are mentally, not just educationally different, right? But you have cultural capital, which means you have a mental scape of, I've been to college, I'm educated, and that makes you really quite different from people who haven't gone to college, right? And even though you might make less money than the person who, has maybe a working class job, right? You still have cultural capital, okay? So that is something I want you to, acknowledge that type of privilege, because if you were, for instance, a teacher, some teachers make less than working class people, right? Working class jobs, right? But they have cultural capital because they went to college, etc. Okay, so that's one way. Also, there's health differences, okay? So if you guys don't know, since you guys are sitting in this class, you have less chance of cancer, okay? College-educated people, guess what? Have cancer what? Less than not college-educated people, right? That's interesting in itself. Mr. Michael? 95% cancers are environmental cancers. Oh, okay. So, a probable cause of that could be like... Oh my God, shut up. Could be. And also, Mr. Michael, college-educated people tend not to smoke. They smoke less than like non-college educated. So down the line, if you guys don't know this, if you marry, the thing is who's a bio major? These health positives are just cumulative, right? Also, if you marry someone who's also college educated, right, you have a less likely to what? divorce, actually. So college-educated people have a less likely divorce. It has some sort of factor of getting married because people who do not go to college, they marry earlier, right? And so if you marry earlier, you tend to, it's harder, right? It's hard to make it through. But college-educated people tend to marry later, right? So when you're later, you sort of you decide on that choice, okay? So also, smoking we talked about. Also, for college-educated, there's a $1 million difference. So write it down. There's a $1 million difference. So the average college-educated person, in comparison to, let's say in America or Riverside, 70%, right? So 70 people that are not here, right, versus you, you're going to make $1 million difference in income, lifetime difference, right? So if you make that income, you generally eat better. You have health care, etc. Okay, so that is also a big, huge issue. Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to mention also in philosophy of law, we learned something about the environment and like chemicals and like cancer and all that stuff. And the thing is, some of the manufacturers or the chemical, manufacturers, they purposely put these companies in poverty areas. And these people, like, it was just so eye-opening because I guess if I was never college educated, I would have never realized that in some of these areas where there are, poor people that are uneducated, they don't understand that the pollution in the air is causing possibly their health issues. And then in turn, they don't know that it's from these multi-million, billion-dollar companies that are causing those, so they don't take action. But now, women like this are out there exposing them and, bringing light to the situation to these impoverished areas or whatever. And I think what they're doing is awesome because a lot of them just don't know that they are being harmed by these manufacturers. And the people that are educated are purposely doing that because they know that, well, here they won't complain because they don't even know what's going on.
Excellent. They won't complain, right? So specifically lower income class. It's class, right? But also race, intersection. Excellent point. Excellent. Okay. All right, guys. Also, if you guys don't know this, and I want you guys to write this down, is you're less likely to be oppressed structurally because you're college educated. I'm not saying that you're not going to be oppressed somehow or oppress other people, but because you have cultural capital, because you have education, you're less likely to be taken advantage of, right? And you have power. If you don't know this, all of you are very powerful, right? And I want you to realize that because it's a power that you don't see, right? But since for every Mr. Benjamin, for every Miss Summer, Miss Melody, there's 70, right, that don't go to college, or actually in this area quite higher, right? So you have something that is not seen, but it is quite powerful, right? Cultural capital, etc. Okay. All right, great. So this is like very different for women, right? All right. So her thesis, can someone read it?
Kollontai thesis. Class and gender-based oppression made the experiences of working-class women very different from middle-class women. Do you agree?
Do you guys agree that working-class woman is very different from you? Woman or man? Woman or man? There's actually multiple genders, whatever. Okay, many genders. We'll get into that next lecture. Yes, go ahead. Okay. Okay. Can we agree that a working class woman is different from a bourgeoisie woman? Yes. To an extent. Okay. They share something. Okay. Yeah.
Whatevs. So, even from the articles that we read when we were talking about, I think it was Barbara Ehrenreich made to order. Okay, made to order. Right, and so how we were talking about even amongst that feminist argument of having the women being the ones who clean up the work or take care of the house, and then when they couldn't do that and work at the same time, they hired a woman to come do that, and those women were typically black or women of color, right?
Excellent point. Yeah.
And so, and it's, in that article it said there's one thing that we know for sure, because there's so many different dimensions to it, but there's one thing that we know is that it's predominantly women of color who are doing these jobs, like maid jobs, which lack what we were just talking about, which is, I guess, cultural capital. Yeah, those jobs lack cultural capital, and I would say like social equity. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you look at those jobs and you have a certain perception of these kind of people, and then you affiliate that or attribute that to a certain ethnicity. You know what I mean?
Great points. Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's something for you all to think of, women and men, and also other genders. Are you going to pay for someone to watch your child, right? And what does that mean if you're paying someone? It's generally a woman of color, etc. Okay, all right. Can someone read it? Yes. Okay, quickly do this. Okay.
The woman's world is divided, just as the world of men, into two camps. The interests and aspiration of one group of women bring it close to the bourgeois class, while the other group has close connections with the proletariat and its claims.
All right, guys, I don't have the answer, but I want you guys to think about it. Is it a bourgeoisie versus the rest? Okay. Having said that, you guys would be considered the bourgeoisie, right? And I think, is it you guys against the majority of America?
Well, here's the thing. Are you asking us to think about this as we are now? Because a lot of us, we don't come here for free. This education isn't for free. A lot of people work 3 jobs, 4 jobs just to even come here. Or like some of us still rely on our parents or whatever it is, you know. But there's always a proletariat force behind someone that's trying to move up a ladder, I guess. Like,
good point.
What do you want us to think about it as, like, when we get older and we have our careers, or like us now?
You can think about it either way, but I want you to think of class, right? Like, what is your class? Because many people around the world, guys, would look at you guys now sitting in a chair, right? You're expending no calories, right? Anthrop majors, right? And one of the definitions of work is how many calories are you expending, right? Are you guys expending any calories by sitting here and listening to that high theory? Yeah, technically one or 2 calories, right? Okay. So I want you to think of yourself now and the future, right? As a class, right? And if it was a class argument, would it be the world against you, the 1%?
I have something to add. I wanted to add to that. Okay. When it comes to bourgeoisie and us, I guess if you consider us bourgeoisie versus the world, I don't think it's so much us as bourgeoisie versus the world. I think, I don't remember the definition, but one of our jobs, if you want to think of us as bourgeoisie, is actually to defend those of the working class. I remember once reading in some like political theory that the job of the middle class, especially within America, is to not only defend ourselves as a people, but the poor and the poor's ability to become middle class. Because if once we stop defending that, the gap between the rich and the poor will be too big. We are essentially the buffer zone. So the bourgeoisie's job, in a sense, is not so much bourgeoisie versus the world, or at least in our country sense, but more so to act as the buffer zone to protect the ideologies of not only the middle class, but the working class, so they can expand as well.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, let's start our video. And again, you could keep going on our blogs online.
Over the course of the last decade, have tried to portray a world in which the only options available to women mimic the 1950s model of femininity, in which women's only power was her beauty, in which women not only had no choices but shouldn't have even wanted any, in which men were burdened with the responsibility of being the Prince Charming who comes in and whisks women away to happily ever after, then has to provide for their financial security. Nobody wins in this model, but women particularly lose in this model, where they're expected to look like Miss USA, have sex like Samantha on Sex and the City, and think like June Cleaver.
And here's something I find even more disheartening. Watching the news. So many female journalists are objectified or sexualized.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you tonight.
Katie Couric. It was the very first national experience we had all together, viewing a woman who was not entertaining us, but whose presence and presentation was vital for, to the information that we needed.
The 3 major evening newscasts had been dominated by white males. They had very similar faces and very similar backgrounds for the most part. I thought this is an opportunity to mix it up a little bit. I also thought it was an important message that a woman could be as competent as a man in an important, powerful role.
And I remember in the early days when I would get calls from reporters about, we have our first woman anchor. What do you think about that? Inevitably, the questions that they would ask first were, what about those legs? Do you think she was showing too much leg? Or what about that winter white? Wasn't that a big mistake? They were all observations that had to do with her physicality and not really about the content at all. But again, it's because, as I've always said, we are a nation of teenage boys. We don't know what to make of this woman sitting in front of us. And so, we look at her legs, her boobs, her hair, her whatever, and then maybe way down the line we'll get to listening to what she's saying.
Ever since I've been in media at all, even since, the first morning show that I was on in Holyoke, Massachusetts, as the sidekick news girl, there's been like a really consistent proportion of, I don't even know if you call it criticism. Essentially, it's hate mail. As I've become sort of better known and I get more feedback, the amount of I hate you, homophobic, I hate what you look like, I'm going to kill you, like threatening male stuff, it's like the proportion has stayed exactly the same. It's like it's always 14% of the feedback, and it's almost all of the hate mail is about gender and sexuality. I mean, who has the time, if that's really what you think and you really are that bad a speller, like you really are still going to take this time to let me know what you thunk about what I look like?
It's the scrutinization that women get that far surpasses the scrutinization that men get. I don't ever see gossip columns or tabloids reporting on Brian Williams' personal life. Yet Katie Couric and what she is wearing or who she's dating is headline news.
I think whenever there are 2 women who are working in similar professions, it's automatically positioned as a catfight. Diane Sawyer and I were pitted against each other as if, we were going to be in a mud wrestling competition on the weekends. So, and you never saw that with, say, Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings.
Take it away with the Red Hat Boys in blue, which I got this one down. Okay, good.
Sometimes I look on the cable news channels. I see women wearing very low-cut shirts and lots of makeup, and, their hair is kind of tousled, and they look like they're working as cocktail waitresses instead of newscasters. It's just a very mixed message.
Folks, we're going to play a game. I'm going to show you a photo of a woman. You have to guess whether she is a professional newscaster or a Hooters waitress. Are you ready? Here we go.
The local news anchorships look like, somebody's grandfather and his second wife.
Television's a very visual medium, obviously, and it's kind of how do you walk the fine line of looking pleasing and attractive, but also looking professional. I look back on my Today Show interviews and I think, geez, my skirt is way too short. I sometimes worry that I started this thing with my legs and everything, that I have sort of started this trend of trying to look, I don't know.
There is so much pressure to look a certain way. When I'm on television, I never try and explicitly dress sexy. I don't want to distract from the stories that I'm telling.
I want you to focus on what I'm saying. There's a lot of words in my show, and I work really hard on getting them in the right order. For some people, I will always be too hideous a creature to be on television. That's fine. But if you can get over that on day one, it's going to stay the same for the whole time that I'm on the air.
I think it's really hard for women today.
The emphasis on women's appearance affects more than just women on screen. It's affecting women's ability to participate in the political process. Ironically, the more power women gain, the stronger the backlash against them. And this phenomenon is most evident in the way the media disrespects our female leaders.
She's irresistibly cute, let's put it that way. In the way she presents herself, obviously she's attractive and all that.
Sarah Palin looks really hot in that hat.
She just said
that she doesn't know how cars work. Oh, that's crazy. Have you seen the hat on her?
Both you and Sarah Palin are good-looking women. I mean, you're attractive, young, relatively young women.
Kagan he's going to put on the U.S. Supreme Court. Isn't there such a thing about the aesthetics of the appointee? Let's put it to you this way. She's not the type of face you'd want to see on a $5 bill.
I think I'm going to send Sotomayor and her club a bunch of vacuum cleaners to help them clean up after their meetings.
Cynthia McKinney, the former congresswoman from Georgia, was another angry black woman.
Look at these ugly skanks who make up the female leadership of the Democratic Party.
Do you know that ugly hag, Madeleine Albright? Remember her? A psycho. She was the Secretary of State under Clinton. Remember, like a fat moron.
And now we have the Wicked Witch of the West, Nancy Pelosi.
I think if Speaker Pelosi were still capable of human facial expression, we'd see she'd be embarrassed.
Nancy Pelosi, get another facelift, lady. Another reason why it's very rare to find a woman worthy of serving in political office.
And it's bye-bye Pelosi.
And Hillary Rotten Clinton, her thighness, is no better than Dumbo with the big ears.
When she raises her voice, and when a lot of women do, it's as I say, it reaches a point where every husband in America has heard it one time or another.
You get a woman in the Oval Office, most powerful person in the world, what's the downside?
You mean besides the PMS and the mood swings?
There's probably no more powerful influence in the way we view power than the way media treats power. And media treats power as defined by men, because it has been, throughout our generation and the ones before, generally defined that way.
When press representations of women who are running for the highest office in the land are focusing, for example, on how women look instead of what they've done or their issue positions, that's got to impact the audience in terms of how they evaluate and judge those women. One of the things it does is it trivializes them. It makes women seem less powerful.
During the Democratic National Convention in '84, when Geraldine Ferraro was running, she was introduced on national television as the first female vice presidential candidate, size 6. So this is not new.
My colleague did a study looking at Elizabeth Dole and her race for president. She was coming in second in Iowa at the time, after George Bush, and there was much more coverage of her appearance than there was of the substance of what she was talking about.
When I ran for Congress, I was campaigning at grocery stores, and a woman came up to me, and she put her arms around me, and she whispered, "Don't worry. You don't look nearly as fat in real life as you do on TV." The week before the election, a man came up to me and he said, "You seem great, but I don't feel like I could vote for you for Congress. I feel like I should hire you as a babysitter."
When I first ran for public office, which is now over 20 years ago, although my youngest was a senior in high school, the question I was most frequently asked was, who's going to be taking care of your children? And of course, it's one of those questions that I don't think a man has ever been asked when he has run for office.
If you look at the women who ran who had honorary titles, like Senator Clinton, if the press drops that title and instead refers to them as Mrs. Clinton, this is a way to kind of diminish some of her accomplishments.
There is such a thing as a media bias. For example, media will write in the same way about a man and a woman. Senator X, who's a woman, complained that. And in the same thing, Senator Y stated that. So the man will get a stated, and the woman will get the negative verb, complained.
Women were twice as likely to be described emotionally as were men. And by painting women as more emotional than men, we perpetuate the stereotype that women are emotional. Therefore, they're irrational. Therefore, they can't handle a crisis. Therefore, they should not be in leadership positions.
I remember so many times during the campaign, people asking, well, is she tough enough to be commander-in-chief? Well, I've known plenty of men who aren't tough enough to be commander-in-chief, and nobody asks that question.
Making sure that these kids have a shot at the American dream, like I did. It's important.
Gosh, what do you think they would have done to Nancy Pelosi if she had gotten all worked up? They would have said that she's unstable, couldn't do the job. Ooh, yes, welcome to America.
A woman in power is often seen as a negative thing. We associate all the worst aspects of power, and we translate those to a woman seeking to achieve power.
One of the key ways in which media played a role in the primary was to talk about Hillary Clinton's ambition as though it were a bad thing.
When Barack Obama speaks, men hear, "Take off for the future." And when Hillary Clinton speaks, men hear, "Take out the garbage."
When she reacts the way she reacts to Obama, with just the look toward him, looking like everyone's first wife standing outside a probate court.
I don't know what they're getting at here, Tucker. What do you think they're saying about Hillary?
I don't know, but that is so perfect. As I have often said, when she comes on television, I involuntarily cross my legs.
I know you do.
Hillary Clinton had hecklers following her saying, "I earned my shirt."
And some people think you bring about change by...
She was frequently called a bitch in mainstream media.
She's a stereotypical bitch. You know what I mean?
Obama did great in February, and that's because that was Black History Month. And now Hillary's doing much better because it's White Bitch Month, right?
If she knew how it made her look, so alternately soppy and bitchy, she'd stop it. But she can't help herself, can she?
Her credentials were constantly questioned.
Let's not forget, and I'll be brutal, the reason she's a U.S. Senator, the reason she's a candidate for president, the reason she may be a front runner is her husband messed around.
Yeah, but...
That's how she got to be Senator from New York. We keep forgetting it. She didn't win there on her merit.
Sarah Palin presented a very different image. She is the first national high-profile female candidate who presented herself in very feminine terms as a quote-unquote real woman.
She's the American dream. Women want to be her, men want to mate with her. I want her laying next to me in bed.
There were pictures shot between her legs of folks at the Republican National Convention. In a nutshell, she was pornified and ditzified.
I don't want to say she's a ditz, but last night my stripper's fake name was Sarah Palin.
Yo, let me tell you something about Sarah Palin, man. She's good masturbation material.
So Hillary Clinton tried to be properly masculine and properly feminine, and she lost. Sarah Palin puts out this different image of, shall we say, hyper-femininity, and she gets beaten up in really degrading gendered ways.
But tonight we are crossing party lines to address the now very ugly role that sexism is playing in the campaign. An issue which I am frankly surprised to hear people suddenly care about. Reporters and commentators, stop using words that diminish us like pretty, attractive, beautiful, harpy, shrew, boner shrinker.
My worry is now that